Yeah, finally just a few days out. What's the feeling? I mean, you've been a part of some big fights in your career, but is this feeling like kind of like a special moment or a big fight to you at all?
Oh, this feels like the biggest fight of my career, and it's just the excitement around it is just it's been building, ever since I was first approached about this fight. I was approached about it, and initially what attracted me to it was, the main event, the McGregor-Poirier fight, being the co-main event to that, being a pay-per-view, and the opportunity that something did happen. Touch wood, I don't wish anything upon either of those two, but something did happen. You had the opportunity to slide your way into the main event spot, which is what initially got me to the fight. But then once the opponent, Michael Chandler, I started looking at his career, what he's accomplished, what he's achieved, his skill set, I got just excited as the other fans to see what he's all about. I definitely feel like the hype and excitement around him is warranted. So that, again, made it very easy to train for. It motivated me to get in there and train by the opponent. And then just this last week, Khabib saying, with an impressive performance, main event, co-main event, I could come out of retirement and potentially fight. So it's a kind of a last-minute injection of excitement. So it's just been continuing to build over the last 2 months. But it's just so much going on in the division, I think, is why I feel like this is the biggest fight of my career.
Are you disappointed at all that Khabib's not going to be there in person to, like, I don't know, be there from cage side and give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down like the Emperor?
Yeah, oh man, that's cool. I can understand. He's got priorities to take care of and things to focus on, and they probably can't have him and Conor in the same room. That's probably the main reason they don't want anyone jumping in any cages.
Yeah. Michael Chandler, when you got matched up to him, you said you're impressed with him. Now, how much had you watched of him at all? Had you seen any of his fights? I mean, I'm sure you knew the name, but had you really watched him compete?
Yeah, when he was coming over here and he was weighing in, I was taking jabs at him, calling him, taking some jabs at him, calling him a fitness model and all that sort of jazz. I'd never watched a Michael Chandler fight. I definitely knew who he was and what he'd achieved inside of Bellator. I knew he was a champ, but never studied. I'd seen highlight reels of, the Eddie Alvarez war, but not really studied him or watched any fights. And once I did, as I say, I learned where that respect came from and that hype and that excitement around him is. It's definitely warranted. I believe like his third fight of his career was in Bellator, and he's been fighting in there ever since. So that's a high level. He's been fighting world-class lightweights for a lot longer than a lot of other people in this sport.
Yeah, we're all looking from the outside, looking at, we're looking for edges, that sort of thing, and his flight getting in late, right? I think he's just getting out of quarantine. I mean, do you pay attention to stuff like that? I mean, I know that can't be a part of your strategy, but you start going, well, it's a good thing for me. He's probably going to be jet lagged. He's probably going to be a little tired.
Oh, it's a bit irritating. I don't think it's any kind of advantage. I think sitting in a hotel room over there or sitting in a hotel room over here, it's kind of part and parcel with this environment that we're competing under.
Yeah. Last thing for me, you had a Fight of the Year candidate with no fans. I wonder what the psychology is like. Is there anything different? Because you've been a part of some great fights throughout your career, but is there a different mentality you got to have coming into this moment, knowing it could be another one of those kind of fights, but you don't have that kind of crowd to give you that adrenaline rush?
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's not going to be like a hometown sold-out arena that I have experienced in the past. There's nothing like that when you get down to Australia or New Zealand, have a hometown support that's got your back. You can feel the crowd. You know what I mean? They're screaming. You look up. It's in an enclosed basketball arena. There's people in the ceiling pretty much when there's no feeling like that. I've seen a lot of fans saying, I kind of prefer it watching without the fans because you can hear it or you can feel it. It's like, man, those people have never seen this live. Yeah. It's unreal live, the sport. A hometown fighter in there getting a win in their hometown, exciting finish. There's nothing like that in the sport. So it's not going to be the same with the 2,000 fans, but I'm grateful that it's those 2,000 over the last time where I had no fans. So I'm just happy we're going to have some fans back.
Going off of that, do you think having that fight with Dustin with no fans gives you any sort of advantage at all? It's like what to expect in later rounds after you've been going to war and not having the adrenaline come from outside the cage, but you need to produce it yourself. Yeah,
it's kind of just you do draw that energy from the fans. You do draw that excitement when they start yelling things out. You do hear it within the fight and are motivated. I feel like it's a slight advantage, but he has already come out here and seen it with his own eyes. Like, he was here last time for the Fight Island experience, weighing in, sitting cage side. I feel like he knows what to expect. I think his last fight against Ben Henderson was with no crowd in the Bellator cage. So he's been through and he's experienced that before. So I'm not expecting, and even when I look at an opponent, I never focus in on weaknesses. I never look, oh man, he might be this, he might be that. I'm looking for weaknesses. I'm looking for strengths, because I know that you're going to repeat your strengths. Your weaknesses, I expect you to fix as I fix my own weaknesses. But your strengths, you're always going to fall back on what your strengths are, and your strengths can become your weakness.
You mentioned you feel like this is the biggest fight of your career. Just as we're coming towards the fight, have you felt personally more attention on you this time compared to any other fight, just from being on part of this big card?
It always builds. Every single fight, it gets more and more attention, and it constantly builds. There are a lot of eyes on this fight, and I'm getting asked a lot of questions, which is great. I love talking to you guys. But yeah, I think it's the main event. You know, there's something else here. There's something in the water with Conor McGregor on the card. You know, it's pretty crazy the amount of attention that he draws to something.
If Khabib does leave and there's a vacant title and you have that impressive performance, would you rather fight Conor or get a chance to rematch with Dustin?
I haven't put too much thought into that. Regardless, Khabib, if he does stay or go, Dustin or Conor, my eyes are kind of focused. Well, my ultimate goal is to be the champion of the world. So I see, not looking past anyone, but I see through all the personas, all of that stuff, all the huge names, all the characters. I see the world title, and so it's whoever stands between me and the world title is who I want to compete against. And I want to, at the end of the day, I want to compete against the best. So whoever wins in that main event is who I want to compete against, because they've proven themselves as the best.
Who is winning in the main event? How's that one going?
Yeah, I've got my answer on lock. I just press play and it comes out. You want to hear it? All right, play. I might have saved it here. I might have lied in those other 50 interviews, and now I'm gonna give it away for real. Now I feel like it's going to be a close contest. I feel like it's going to go the full 5. I feel like it's going to be a close contest. It's honestly up in the air. I do not believe it's going to go down like the first. I feel like at 55, Dustin is one of the bigger guys at 55. It's he doesn't look the biggest or the most imposing, but he's a thick boy and he's heavy, you know. He's one of the most durable, one of the fittest guys in the division, and so they match up well. As we all know, Conor has the lulls in energy throughout. Dustin does not. Dustin just constantly builds throughout the fight, so it's going to be difficult. If he can't, I don't feel like he's going to get him out of there, but hurt him. If he doesn't hurt him badly early on and drain some of Dustin's gas tank away, I think it's going to be difficult for him in the later rounds. But I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be one heck of a fight.
Michael Chandler said what got him excited to face you was you were one of the few fighters that actually called him out, you and Paul Felder were his exact words. Why do you think so few fellow lightweights wanted to welcome him to the UFC?
It's a big risk. It's a huge risk, taking on a fighter that's not ranked in the UFC. That's why everyone ahead of me turned the fight down, because they didn't want to risk their spot in the lightweight division. I'm confident in myself. I back myself against Michael Chandler. I'm as excited as the fans. I want to see him fight a top tier lightweight. I want to compete against him myself, because I feel like he's earned the spot. I feel like what he's done in the Bellator cage has put him in the contention. I'm not salty at all that he got put in as the backup for the title, but that shows that the UFC know what he's capable of. So I'm just glad he's getting out there and the fans get to see him compete against one of the best lightweights.
And after your back-to-back 5-round fights, you think this 3-round benefits you in a way? His last fight was pretty quick. He didn't have a lot of cage time.
That's a holiday. That's a holiday compared to those damn 5-5s. I'm excited. I know full well, this with a full camp, is going to be completely different. The preparation from this fight compared with the preparation for the last fight is pretty much it's apples and oranges. You can't really compare the two. I feel like I've had a very good camp, one of the best camps I've had, and as long as probably since the James Vick fight, this is the best camp that I've had. Just everything's come together, pushed hard, sharp, fit. Touch wood, I took no injuries even though I was training very hard, so I'm confident that I can match his pace or outpace him over a 3-round fight.
And then, not related to the fight, but Auckland City FC pulled out of the FIBA World Cup club tournament because of the quarantine measures they have to go through getting back into New Zealand. So, hey, what are your thoughts on that, and what are the quarantine measures that are causing a whole team to pull out of the tournament because of it?
Yeah, they're pretty crazy. So we have to book in for our isolation now. So I didn't have to do it last time I competed in Vegas. They were just, if you were a New Zealand resident or citizen, you could just fly back into New Zealand and they would put you in an isolation facility. Now you have to book a ticket for your isolation facilities. So they get, I did book 2 months ago. I did book with a little bit of advance, but I still have to wait 4 weeks before I can get a spot in isolation. So
when are you going to get back?
Well, my spot in isolation is booked the 21st of February. So that's when I can get back into New Zealand.
And then it's 2 weeks after?
And then 2 weeks after. So my trip all up is almost 2 months.
You gonna stay here the whole time? The month after?
Yeah, I have purely because I haven't spent. The COVID situation is pretty under control in the UAE from what I'm looking at, and I've never spent that much time. I've passed through Abu Dhabi, but I've never spent a good amount of time. So it's a bit of a throwback. I get to explore a new place, see a new culture that I've never experienced. So I'm looking forward to that 4 weeks after the fight. I get around. I have a few friends in Dubai that are training at the moment. So there's some good training partners that I can mix it up with. So I'll travel, train. I've got a bit more money than when I used to do it. I used to do it broke with a backpack on my back. So it's going to be a bit more fun with some money, with some cash in my pocket.
Dan, can I just ask you, what does your path to that lightweight title look like after Saturday?
Man, it depends. The call out or who I ask to fight next will completely depend on the result or the performance. The champion himself said that he would come out of retirement if there's an impressive enough performance in the main event, co-main event. I feel like with a strong performance, you're looking at fighting someone in the main event, you know what I mean? Even with a win, you're fighting someone that's ranked ahead of you. So I feel like with a win, I'm one fight away from the title. If not, in with the shot. I definitely feel like my game is built around finishes. I'm capable of a finish, especially a fast finish, and an impressive performance is something that I've done many times in my career. So I definitely feel like it's a possibility.
What do you have to do to make Khabib come back and give you that title shot?
I think it's shut down the wrestler. He's the wrestler, right? Khabib's the wrestler as well. So, if we're looking at who's in the title picture, that's another strong wrestler, strong offensive wrestler, not a defensive wrestler. The only two would be Chandler and Khabib. So I'm fighting the only other wrestler, strong offensive wrestler in the division. So if I can completely shut that down, defend the takedowns, and prove that I have the style to beat a wrestler, then I feel like the opportunity's there.
Dan, do you think that's a part of your game that's underestimated? You do have the second highest rated takedown defense in the lightweight division of anyone on the roster right now. Do you think people kind of overlook your ability to stop takedowns in the defensive wrestling?
I didn't know that, but that's a good stat to know. That's a good stat to know. Yeah, well, just thinking from memory, it's been a long time since I've been taken down. I've clean takedown. I remember Dustin reversed me once we were on the ground and got on top, but I don't think that was necessarily a takedown out in the open. I had started that wrestling exchange myself. I think the last time was Jamila got a takedown on me and I popped back up and managed to get the finish. So I think even though I do hit the deck, it's very difficult person to hold down. I feel like my style was built around that because that's who I fought early on, was shorter guys that wanted to put me on my back. I'm a long, tall fighter. This is something I've been dealing with for 11 years. 12 years I've been dealing with this exact style, so I'm pretty confident that my game is built to, it's the kryptonite for the style.
Going back earlier. Oh, sorry, you mentioned earlier on, that you'd agreed to be on this card even before Chandler was your opponent, right? Like, so what was the discussions like with UFC? What attracted, was it McGregor that attracted you to the card?
So they approached me with Michael Chandler on this card, but it was like the opportunity to slip into the main event is definitely what initially attracted me before I researched Michael Chandler. But yeah, being part of a huge McGregor card, being you know, it's pretty crazy times with the COVID situation. You know, someone could fall out, and whether that's a bit of redemption against Dustin Poirier, or whether that's fighting the most well-known fighter in the world, that's who I want to test myself again. So that's initially what drew me to it, was fighting either one of them.
I mean, you call him the most well-known fighter in the world. I saw DC and Ariel talking about maybe his skills are actually underestimated because of the fame that comes with it. Well, how do you look at Conor McGregor?
I definitely don't underestimate his skills. Like, just strip that away. I see past all of that. You know, I see him as a competitor. But strip all of it away. Strip the persona away of Conor McGregor. Skill for skill, you know, with Khabib retired, I think he's the most technically sound fighter out there. I think incredible striker, and I feel like he's the best lightweight with the champion retired. Skill for skill.
And finally, I know you've mentioned it a little bit, but the extra incentive, because of course that's something that you probably wouldn't have known until Dana said about it on Saturday after the meeting with Khabib. What did that, you know, how excited did that get you, or does it really change because you're still kind of on task to get the done? Right? Yeah,
I am on task. Like, all of that, I see it, you know, I just use it as motivation for the task at hand. So I can use, you know, what's going to happen next as motivation for beating Michael Chandler or focusing on Michael Chandler. But that's something that I'm not doing is looking past Michael Chandler. He's one of the best lightweights in the world, so I'm excited to get out there and compete against him.
You could spoil Khabib and Conor too.
Oh, I don't want to spoil anything.
How did you get the nickname the Hangman? I'm assuming you didn't hang someone.
Actually,
I'm facing a murder charge when we get back. Nah, like, I used to catch a lot of submissions early on, but it used to be, you know, it's part of that. It's partly that. And it's part, you know, I take this like real professionally. This is something I do. You know, I go out there and fight cold like a professional executioner. That's so it's a mixture of the two. It's the submissions, but it's how I approach the sport. You know, you get that name, you sign to fight me, I'm gonna approach it like a execution. I'm gonna go out there regardless of who you are, regardless of whether I hate you, whether I like you, whether I think you're a great guy, whether I think you're terrible. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try and get you out of there, and I'm gonna try and finish you.
And you said that you don't focus on Michael Chandler's weaknesses, just his strengths. What do you think are his strengths other than the offensive wrestling that you mentioned before?
The pace that he starts at is guys tend to lose that when they get as experienced as he is. You know, he's had 30 professional MMA fights. Guys tend to be like, all right, I've been knocked out a few times. I might settle down and mature and take a backward step and try to pick someone apart. But he's still just as fearless as a 5-0 fighter. You know, that's on the come up. So I feel like it's that fast start he has. It's that fearlessness to come out there and exchange and try and hit you that makes him very dangerous.
And you said that you hadn't watched much of his career until you signed on the dotted line to fight him. Is there a standout performance of his that stands out, obviously? But
I feel like he's got a lot of knockouts. Like he's developed. You know, early on in his career, it was a lot of takedowns and it was a lot of submissions and it was a lot of grinding guys out and beating them up, throwing them around and slamming them. Then it developed into a lot of knockouts on the feet. So he's definitely grown in the Bellator cage. But I would say his last performance, Ben Henderson, it was an incredible fight. The first one, I think, he dominated it early on. Benson managed to kind of come back and edge his way back into the fight as the rounds progress. But his last fight against him, he looked like the best he's ever looked in that fight, and the most well-developed he's ever looked. So I'm excited to go out there and not, compete against a waning Michael Chandler. I feel like he's the best he's ever been right now. So it's the perfect time for him to come over to the UFC and test his skills.